Post Slap, I had pretty much lost all hope that we'd ever get to see another Bad Boys movie. You know what Slap I'm talking about. But here we are, new mystery, new villain, some familiar faces, and lots of yapping. Hey everybody, I'm Jesse.
And I'm Adi.
And we just finished watching Bad Boys Ride or Die. In this installment, Mike and Marcus are back, and this time to clear up their late captain's name. He has been framed from the dead and linked to cartels.
Yes.
And I think that's as far as we can get
Without
saying too much.
Anything.
But
they're just trying to dirty his good name.
And Mike and Marcus are trying to clean it up. And we get to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm sure, as y'all may know, we get to see the return of Reggie from the trailer. We get to see a handful of characters that didn't get to play that big of a role in previous movies, but we know who they were, come back in a little bit of a bigger way. Not a big way, but a bit of a bigger way. And we get to see
step up and get a promotion.
Definitely. And we get to see the return of the majority of the cast from the previous movie, which was Bad Boys for Life. And it was great. They all played a good role without overshadowing Mike and Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's too many people to juggle, or they're trying, to do fan service, and it just doesn't work out. And in this film, we don't lose sight of what's important. And that is Mike and Marcus, which of course have to make a return. It's their movie. And they, from Ride or Die and Bad Boys for Life, I feel like this one stepped it up, and finally we're back to like where we were beforehand in their chemistry. It feels good. I felt like Bad Boys for Life was missing a little something, and this one stepped it up, and we're back to that point where, like, I feel the chemistry in there. Their banter, and of course Marcus's yapping. He's a certified, as you mentioned earlier, he's a certified yapper. That is what he does.
He loves a good little stream of consciousness. I also really enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious. I thought they did a good job tying in the previous movies and the previous characters. I wouldn't say it was like fan service, but it serviced me as a fan. I also thought that the plot this time, similar to Fast and Furious, how like the first movie you start with the smallest villain, and then the next movie somehow ties in that villain to like a bigger organization. Same idea here, and I think they connected it in a pretty clever way. I don't know how else they would have made a fourth part to this franchise without the way that they did. But I thought that worked really well with the previous storylines. And yeah, it was super funny. I enjoyed it. We were cackling the entire time, and I think it's a great fourth addition to the franchise.
Yeah, it definitely has to be grandiose. Like, it feels like nowadays you really have to like bring that power to the screen in order to even like try bringing audiences out. So,
it was kind of empty though.
I know, surprisingly,
like,
right?
Opening night or pre-opening night.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be. I don't remember what I booked, and I thought it was full, and I thought this was one of them. But I mean, the movie was still great. I mean, we'll have box office performance will be another thing, but yeah, along with like recurring characters that we get to see come back. One thing I don't remember if they did it in the last film for Life, but that I like that they brought back that also gave me like nostalgia, was they had a like recurring idea thing, like a little bit of banter that kept like popping in. I don't want to say exactly what it was.
Jokes.
Yeah, there you go. So like in part 2, it's the whole woosah thing, right? Trying to get them to like calm down, and so they come up with something this time around that is equally as funny, and it keeps coming back up in different ways, and it gets funnier every time, and it's equally as funny. So
yeah,
it's nice.
A little running joke.
Yeah, there you go, a running joke. And so they have that little thing keep coming back, and it's funny. I like that. That felt very reminiscent of part 2 for me.
Yeah. There was also something else that I noticed that wasn't like dialogue based, but I liked how they had kind of like a video game-esque POV in certain like action scenes. I think it happened like twice, if not thrice, I thought that was interesting because it makes it feel like you're in the movie, but like in a video game, because they have the gun pointing. Oh, can I say gun on
Yeah.
the YouTubes? They have the gun pointing, and it's like you're
The
pointing
pew-pew.
the gun, yeah. And then like it's like kind of like jarring movement of like you looking around side to side, and then it like flips to another person, and I thought that was an interesting little thing that they added in there.
Yeah, it is good because it has to be done tastefully. Because if you do it too much, then people start complaining, and it's just like, oh, that's not a video game. I don't want this. So it's just like, it's just enough to be like, oh, it's a cool gimmick, And I was waiting for that because I saw they started posting ads on Facebook of the camera rig for that, and I was like, oh, it's pretty interesting. So I was like, I assume there's gonna be some first person shots.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, and. Yeah, so on that point of cinematography, there was some really good cinematography, some like really cool drone shots.
Yeah, I always love the time lapses that they do of the sky when they're like transitioning, and then like it's the next day, but like the sunset or sunrise is going super fast.
Yeah, the sky and all that stuff, and they did the classic. I don't remember again. I can't remember if they did it in the past one, but they did the classic hero shot where it pans from like behind, comes around, and like shows them just like in a stance, and so that hero shot.
Yeah, I feel like that's in every single movie.
And so those little cinematography bits also kind of just like gave me that nostalgic feel, but still not. It was better. I enjoyed it more than Bad Boys for Life, but it's still like right under like part 2 for me. Like part 2 is just like I love part 2, and then it'd have to be this one, then For Life, then part 1. Part 1 is just so forgettable for me. I haven't seen it in a while.
That's so funny because my brother asked me. He was just like, "Is it as good as part 1?" And I was like, "Which one's part 1?"
Yeah, I was like, we're fans of part 2 over here.
One gripe I did have is with the ending. Not so much like what the events that occurred, but I thought the ending was kind of rushed because you spent the entire first half, or first third, second third, I don't know how you chop up movies, but like most of the movie trying to like catch the bad guy, and at some point you come to a standoff, and then things happen with the bad guy, and then after that I feel like they just like kind of cut it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more resolution, more loose ends being tied than there was, especially with the cast. They introduced the daughter and granddaughter of the captain, and that was kind of just like they briefly introduced them at the beginning, and then they kind of like made another appearance in the latter half of the movie. But I wanted to know what happened. I always want to know everybody's storylines and where they end up. So I would have
This is the second time you've had this gripe, so.
Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more explanation at the ending, more storyline. But as always in the previous movies, the big scene happens, they're the good guys, everybody loves them again. And then they like usually do like a little scene with just Marcus and Mike and their families.
Life.
Yeah, like kind of enjoying it, rounding off the movie. I will say my boy Reggie gets some redemption. He is my favorite. I think he's always been my favorite because they like bully him and he's just a quiet guy. But I feel like he really earned people's respect in this movie, and I'll leave it at that.
He had a character arc.
Yeah, he had a character arc, and Mike is very proud of him.
Yeah. I love the endings in these movies, but again, part 2's ending is just my favorite, where they break
the pool,
the pool, and they're just out in the
Bad Boys.
out in the ocean. Yeah, that's just pinnacle Bad Boys for me. But alas, still, this movie was great. It was a very fun time, solid. I actually hadn't thought about it, but I'm gonna say an 8. An 8 out of 10 for me. It's just part 2 is just pinnacle, cream of the crop Bad Boys for me. And I don't know, I guess it's like a product of its time, and so like I feel like it's just too modern, it's too grandiose for me, it's too flashy almost sometimes. I just like that the previous ones were almost a little bit, and take this with a grain of salt, more grounded, in a sense of like the villain seemed real, like it wasn't some type of, I can't say anything without giving anything away, right, but some, I don't know, ultra villain. It was like a basic cartel member. And so the things he was doing seemed legit. So I'm just gonna wrap it up by saying it felt a little too grandiose for me. Although it's a great movie, it's just that
I
one
think
thing.
they stop losing, or they start losing the groundingness after they keep going on with like 4, part 5, part 6, because it's the same thing with like Fast and Furious. The first couple of ones were like, oh yeah, this is plausible, and then the more modern later ones are just like, okay,
yeah, and like I said, I feel like it's because it's a product of its time, which I like it for that. You know, it's in order to keep up with the times, they gotta. I feel like they do have to make it a little bit more than just a basic cop drama. So they're doing their best to keep up with the times, which is good for them. And again, very enjoyable, very fun movie, but still just an 8 out of 10 for me, just because those little tidbits, but still very solid, very fun movie.
Yeah, I give it a 10 out of 10. I really liked it.
What?
Yeah. I love all of Martin Lawrence's yaps. I love the cast. I don't want to lose this. I don't want to say a spoiler, but I loved Reggie's character arc. I thought they had good chemistry. I thought it was a good plot. I just wish they had filmed like 30 more minutes.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, even then, like I was, because I love how part 2 is such a long film. I think it's almost close to 3 hours, and I don't think any of these two have hit that 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
Because in part 2, it gets to a point where you almost feel like, oh, it's done. And then they go to Cuba.
Yeah,
and that's almost a whole other movie.
That's kind of what I wanted. I wanted there to be like another little stint that they pulled. Like it wasn't really over when we all thought it was over, and it was. We thought it was over, and it was actually over, and so we're like, oh, okay. I just would have liked a little bit extra, but yeah, I didn't think it was super cheesy. I actually enjoyed the action scenes. They were really funny. There's I think it's in the trailer, so it's not a spoiler. There's a scene with an alligator that's very funny. That's very funny. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I really liked it.
Yeah, it felt like the Bad Boys of old. Like, it felt good.
If anything, they could have just sprinkled it in their little theme song a bit more, because I feel like we just got like 2, maybe 3 instances of them like playing the beginning chords, and then Martin Lawrence was just like Bad Boys, but like they didn't actually like play like, the actual song while the movie was happening.
Yeah, or even just for the credits. Like just the way the way part 2 ends again.
Well, maybe it was like in the after the credits song. We just didn't say that long.
But yeah, overall, highly recommended. Must see in theaters kind of deal. You know, this is a go. Get yourself some popcorn. Get yourself a slushie.
If you're an AMC investor, it's free this month.
Enjoy this movie. It's great. It's a fun time in theaters. It's definitely worth it. So, yeah, go check it out this weekend. If you don't have plans already, make plans to go check it out. Come back here and let us know what you thought in the comments down below. Till next time.